What role have you played to try and fit in before? Have you ever felt like you've had to try and pretend to be somebody that you weren't just to fit in? Like the real you maybe wasn't enough? I have been there. It is something I struggled with my entire life. The truth is, when you truly and fully embrace who you are, that's when everything changes. At least that's what happened to me. And that's why I believe that authenticity is our greatest strength. I spent 21 years in the military. And by the time I came out, I had no idea who I was as a person anymore. Not one idea. My authentic self had been buried under expectations and routines and a version of me that I guess I thought I had to be. But crazy enough, these last few years creating content, I've been able to find my way back to myself and an even better version of me. But that's why today I want to talk about authenticity, not only in your real life, but also in content creation. Hello and welcome to Random Candace Thoughts. I'm Candace, your favorite Florida mom and overthinker. Today we are diving into one of my favorite topics, authenticity, in life and in business. Staying true to yourself is the secret sauce to success. Let's get into it. I joined the Air Force when I was 19. I went to college, had a struggling semester, and I dropped out. And after that, I moved in with my parents, got into some not so great stuff, and then decided to join the Air Force. And my mother would always say, thank God for the Air Force. Had it not been for the Air Force, I may not have been around much longer. So she always said that. And it's true because I was kind of falling apart as a teenager. I was trying to find my way. I was falling in, making bad decisions, jumping from relationship to relationship, all the fun things that you do, sneaking out when you're a teenager, when you're just dropped out of college and living with your parents again. So I joined the Air Force. I went to basic training, and the military did what it did. It literally broke me down into a shell of, I guess, my former self, and then built me back up into the airman that they needed me to be at the time. And despite that, I was able to hold on just a tiny bit of my self identity while still being a uniform part of the military. I think that was something that benefited me while I was in because I just got goosebumps. I don't know why. I think that's something that benefited me while I was in. I was always the one that asked the tough questions. I was always the one that took on the hard challenges. And sometimes that set me apart from other people. And I believe that my little piece of self identity that I retained was how I was able to progress so quickly and so far in my career. And then we can talk about living with a toxic narcissist for 17 years, being married to him for 16, whatever. Mm. 16 years of emotional and mental abuse from a narcissist. When you're done after that, you really got to build yourself back up. And I didn't only have to build myself up, I had to build up my kids while still in the military. The last straw with him, and if you ask him, he'll tell you I left him in a mental hospital because I did. I did. It was my one chance to get away. One of the last things that he said to me, that he had intentionally tried to sabotage my career because he could not handle that I was more successful than he was. Leaving that marriage was one of the most difficult things because, mind you, we had 4 children. I had 4 children with this man. It was one of the hardest yet empowering things I had ever done in my life up to that point as an adult. And just like the Air Force, I had to redefine myself on my terms and find my strength again. As we know now, after I retired from the Air Force, finding myself, starting a business, creating content, and talk about the pressure to be perfect all the time. Perfect videos, perfect lighting, perfect words, perfect music, perfect this, perfect that, perfect everything. Do you have enough followers? Do you not have enough followers? That was very difficult for me to understand that I wasn't creating content for me in my business. It was for my audience. It was for my followers. It was to help people. And I had to step back from that and realize that I didn't have to be perfect. Nobody wanted me to fit into a certain perfect little mold. I wasn't supposed to be. In fact, for almost the first full year of my journey, people told me I was being too unique. I was being too authentic in my content. I wasn't following the strict guidance on how to create content when building a business. And I made the decision to say, F it. I made the decision to say, F it, and just keep going and doing what I wanted to do and kind of closing that door and finding other people that had the same views as me, and it completely changed my life and my business and my content. Completely changed it. That was when I was really able to break free from trying to be perfect all the time. I didn't need to wear makeup every time I made content. I didn't need to have on the perfect clothes. I didn't need to have my hair brushed. I don't even think I brushed my hair today. I think I sprayed some dry shampoo in it and went on about my day. So there's no need to be perfect because people don't need perfect. Do people like to see perfect and fancy? Yeah, sure. But they don't always want to see that. Sometimes they want to see the shit show. But the pressure to be perfect really does kind of get to you and put you in a headspace that's could cause you to quit. I would say the turning point for us in our business really came when I started to embrace the uniqueness of me, of our family, of who we were. And I started to notice that people really craved that relatability and the realness in this just sea of curated, perfect content. One example, when I started my business, covers, putting covers on your Instagram page so that people could see what they were. It was a big deal. It was so time consuming. It was so time consuming. And I didn't want to do it. I hired my daughter. She was my assistant. And that's what she would do all night long. She would just change the covers, make the covers look different. I realized this is taking up too much time. And why would I waste my time on when people really don't care? I'm still able to gain followers without creating these fancy covers for my Instagram page. Some of my most follow heavy content, I would say, has come from me just being real and sharing my story and talking about my struggles and sharing that with other people because maybe they are afraid to come online and they're looking for somebody who isn't that could share a story and they could write a comment. Honestly, sharing your struggles and your quirks, I mean, it builds trust. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to build a community, build trust, and get people to know and like you. Here's some recommendations for you to just be your authentic self online. Very practical ways. Just show up as yourself. Share behind the scenes stuff. Share the unpolished moments, no makeup, the messy house, the dirty clothes. Share it. than unbrushed hair. Speak in your natural voice. We just talked about this, Jennifer and I, on the Social Circle podcast, where we go through all things related to business and content creation in the space. And we just talked about the need to speak in your natural voice. There's no need for you to have corporate jargon and a bunch of other things. Just talk like yourself and share your values and opinions that align with you and your brand, because that's what you're building here. You are building your brand. Your brand's the most important, not the brand you're selling, but you. People buy from you. Just be your authentic self. Today's random life lesson: you can't connect with everyone, but you can deeply connect with the right ones when you can show up as who you are. And before I go today, I want to introduce a new segment that I would like to include every week, and that is Oliver's Light. If you have not listened to previous podcasts, in episode 4, I discussed my grandson Ollie and who he is and how he has impacted our lives. Be sure to check that out if you haven't. It's a great episode, and it just kind of tells his story. But to make sure that I'm constantly saying his name and to make sure that I'm always remembering him, I'm going to introduce every week Oliver's Light. And all it is a space to share something positive. It'll be inspired by him. And one day I would like to get to a point where people are writing in their positive things that I would be able to share on the podcast. This could be anything from a random act of kindness, a meaningful quote, or maybe a lesson, and we can keep it short. But that's why I want to make sure that he stays powerful, and I want to keep his name alive, and I want to encourage listeners to carry that light forward in your own way. And for the very first Oliver's Light segment, I would like to introduce you to Riley. This is our new baby. He is estimated to be about 6 years old. We were just looking at the shelter and we couldn't leave him there. So you understand why, right? Thanks for hanging out with me on today's episode of Random Candace Thoughts. Remember, the world needs your unique voice, not a copy of someone else's. And don't forget that new episodes drop every single week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep it real, and I'll catch you next week.